Well, hello everybody. I am the OG Farmer. Welcome to my brand new channel and my brand new series, The Midwest Contractor. As of right now, I don't have a single subscriber, I don't have a single like, and I have not had one single view. I'm basically talking to myself, but I'm hoping to change all that. So if you're the first person to watch this video, please send me a message. I'd love to remember your name. Well, as I said, welcome to my new series, The Midwest Contractor. It takes place on a 4X map known as Midwest Horizon. For my first series, my first video, I'm breaking all the rules. They always say, never use a 4X map. Fields are too big. Too much repetition and it takes too long to do anything. Well, that's okay. I'll break all the rules. I wouldn't call this a survival series because, well, we're doing a little bit more than surviving. We actually have a place to live, such as it is. And we've got some equipment, such as it is. So now we're not quite surviving, although you can see we don't have a whole lot of money. That's because I spent it all buying this contracting business, which is, well, right over there. We'll go over there in a minute. Anyway, bought it sight unseen, and I'm going to try to make a go of it here in north central Ohio. As I said, this is a 4X map, and I must say, I think the map maker did a pretty good job. Hit it right, because, well, the area that this map represents isn't too far from where I grew up and where I now live. And for the most part, the fields, the way they're laid out, the shapes, the sizes, I'd say you hit it right on the head. And needless to say, most of the terrain in this part of the state, in this part of the country, is just what you see, pretty flat. So anyway, we're going to make a go of it as a contractor and see what we can do. I haven't really decided what the objective, the goal is of this series. Not really quite sure where we're going to end up. All I know is we're going to end up someplace. I don't know if we just simply want to make a point of building a nice big contracting job or a contracting business and enjoy a bunch of big expensive equipment, making a ton of money on these large expansive fields, or whether we want to go for a while, make as much as we can, and buy one of the many beautiful farms that are on this map. I've got to tell you, I've been playing on this map for a while, and yeah, there's a lot here. A lot of opportunities. Haven't seen a farm yet I wouldn't be interested in buying. So anyway, we'll get started and we'll figure it out. Before I get into the rules that I've laid out for myself for this playthrough, thought I'd show you around a bit. This is our trailer where we're going to spend our nights. Right next door is our, well, contracting yard. Can't really call it a farmyard. Although, when we bought this business, it did come with some fields. Before we take a look at the equipment, I'll show you around and show you what we have. Right here we've got a field of oats, which is, well, that might be wheat, which is ready to harvest. Of course, as in every FS22 game. On back here we've got another field which is plowed. There's nothing in it. Haven't decided yet what we're going to do with that, but we're going to put something in it. And then of course over here we've got a field of soybeans, which is a couple months away from being ready to go. Ultimately, and we have to walk before we run here, but I really like this area back here. This is the smallest of the three fields, and I thought maybe after these soybeans are off, depending on where we're at with our contracting gig, well, maybe we'll just turn this into a yard expansion, put up some buildings, and have a place for all this big equipment we're going to eventually be buying. And on back here is some bale storage. using several gameplay mods, enhanced gameplay in this playthrough. And one of them is collect straw from missions. So any harvesting mission that we might do, if it's a grain, straw producing grain, we'll have the ability to collect the straw and save it. Don't know if we're going to do animals on this playthrough or not. Haven't really made up my mind yet. I'll tell you what, again, since I'm talking to myself, not one single like, not one single subscriber, not one single view. This is going to be a pretty tight-knit group, so if you have a suggestion of what you'd like to see, feel free to throw it out. If it's something I feel is pretty feasible or easy to do, we'll definitely throw it in. Oh, so our contracting business came with those two nice buildings, which is a good thing because the stuff that's back here, well, I can't say that it is so nice. We've got a bunch of junk. An old truck, which, by the way, believe it or not, I should run, but it doesn't at the moment. An old trailer, an old blower, and this looks like an old harvester. And it could take some work, but I think it might run too. Inside this old barn, well, pretty much what you see is what you get. Got an old trailer, an old, looks like straw conveyor, an old seeder, an old mower, sickle mower, an old plow, and a pretty cool old Ford tractor. I think we're going to make this a project of ours, see what we can do with it. Wouldn't mind seeing that run again. Well, this is the not so attractive part of the farm. Let's go on over here and I'll show you the rest of it. We've got some tillage equipment, small international plow and, well, disc. A bale trailer that I don't know that I'd walk on it. Rack storage for our supplies, things like fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, herbicide, pallets of anything really. And I left the door open. How nice. Oh well. In here we've got the one new vehicle that we own. We brought this with us. An F450 flatbed. Pretty nice truck. Actually, really nice mod, to be honest with you. Was fortunate to find it. I really like it. It drives kind of typical, stiff and standard for a lot of mods like this, but it's really nice inside, as you can see. Pretty well laid out. Somebody put a lot of work into this thing. When you get out, running boards come out, mirrors go in. It's pretty slick. Over here, we inherited this, and as with most of the equipment that we inherited with our purchase, it's older equipment, but it's in good shape, and it all runs, and it should all be pretty useful. But a really nice old international grain truck. We'll get some use out of that. Nice diesel tank with, that figures. Yeah, we're going to go a long way with that. 5 liters. And we'll see what else we got in here. We have an old New Holland harvester. Again, old and not very clean. The one thing all this equipment has in common, and it could use a pressure washer. An old seeder, just about enough to get the job done with what we have. An old gel baler that's seen better days, but it does produce 125 and 150 centimeter bales. An old international mower conditioner. International 1586 tractor. I do have to say, this is one of my two favorite tractors in this game. I don't know why, but this and one of the Massey Ferguson, I believe it's a 6 series, older mods are two of my favorite tractors. There's really nothing special about them other than they just sound good, they are geared well, the transmissions behave very nicely, they drive very nicely, and I'm a big fan of Autodrive and Courseplay, which you're going to soon come to appreciate. And for whatever reason, this International and that Massey Ferguson just seem to really do well with those utilities. And our other tractor is a Ford 8630. Again, dirty, could stand to be cleaned up, but definitely is something that will work well for us on this playthrough. We do have some older grass equipment, an older windrower, 6-meter windrower, Vermeer tedder, and that just about rounds out our gear. That's what we've got. That's what we're starting with, and we'll see what we can do. All right, so that takes care of the tour of the premises and the facility. So what are we going to do? Well, primarily we're going to do contracts, and as I said, I'll bring up the PDA here. This is a 4X map, so as you would expect, we're going to have a lot of really large fields. And again, people always say stay away from 4X maps when you're doing playthroughs because, well, the fields are just too big, it takes too long, and there's too much repetition. But again, since I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to just pretend I don't know that. One thing I do like about this map, as you'll see, you can zoom out here a little bit. Yes, it's a 4X map, but there are many, many different fields of many shapes and sizes. Not everything is just plain rectangular. You know, there is a lot of variation in field size and shape. So there's plenty of contracts available for us, especially starting out with smaller equipment on smaller fields. A couple of mods I have installed for gameplay purposes. One of them I think you've probably already seen right up there in the center of the screen, the Contracts HUD. It lists each contract that we have active at any one time and tells us the percentage completion. Comes in really handy when you're doing a large number of contracts or you have a number of them queued up, lets you know what you're working on, how close it is to being done, and of course what's yet to go. We are going to have some rules for this playthrough with regard to contracts because let's face it, on maps like this, we could very easily jump out there, start doing contracts, and by the end of the day have $1 million in the bank and pretty much do whatever we want to do. But we're not going to do that. You know, we're going to try to play commensurate with our equipment and our capability. So if we do take on a contract, it's got to be something our equipment can handle. As I said, you know, when you look at this PDA, there are some pretty large fields here. For instance, if we try to harvest field number 108 here, this big field of, I believe that's oats. If we try to harvest that field, it could probably take us 3 or 4 episodes with the equipment that we have. So we're not going to do that. We're gonna take contracts that are that fit the size and the scope of equipment that we have. Now, in terms of mods, I have a couple of mods loaded, as I mentioned. One of them is that contract HUDs there. The other one is the Better Contracts mod. And you'll see from that, we have some functionality with respect to configuration of contracts. We can configure the reward that we receive or the payment that we receive for our contracts. It can be anything from less money than what the normal AI would give you to standard to +10, +20, +30. I'm going to start out with +10 because we are in a normal economy. I don't have it set to hard, I don't have it set to easy, but it is normal. And again, since we're going to be doing some smaller fields, smaller contracts to start with, I do want to add a little bit extra, otherwise we will never make any progress. For whatever reason, the mow and bale contracts have a separate reward setting. I don't know why that is. The initial one seems to cover all of your harvesting, things like all of your tillage, your plowing, your cultivating, your fertilizing, your weeding, and so on and so forth. and then mowing and bale contracts are separate. Lease cost for equipment is set to standard. However, the rule we're going to have for this playthrough, we're not allowed to borrow equipment. If we don't own it, we then can't take that contract until we own that equipment. Now, that said, it is going to be permissible for us to lease some equipment, but I've installed the lease to own mod as well. So if we lease something, we're leasing it with the idea or the intention in mind of purchasing it. So we can't just lease something, use it for a contract, and then turn it back in. Concurrently active contracts, again, a function of the Better Contracts mod. You can set this to any number of contracts. 1 contract, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, unlimited. I've got it set to unlimited. Now, again, it's not realistic to think that we're going to have 10, 12 contracts we're going to do in a day. In real life and reality, you'd never do that. But I have it set to unlimited because there are different types of contracts, as you'll see in a minute, and we're gonna limit ourselves as follows. So if we're doing a harvesting contract, we can do 1 of those a day. If we are doing a baling contract, we can do 1 of those a day. If we are doing a fertilizing contract, a plowing contract, or a cultivating contract, we can do in any combination 3 of those a day. Okay, so that's going to kind of be how we'll work things. Delivery on harvest contracts is set for 85%. So anything above 85% delivered on a contract then is essentially ours. And for baling contracts, I hadn't really thought about where I want this set, but I do want it set someplace. I think I'm going to set it about, I think I'm going to set it at 74%. Baling does involve a lot of work, so that means that 26% of what we get for all the baling contracts will essentially be ours. Hence also our bale storage in the event that we do have extra bales, given that the sale price for that stuff isn't always the best at the time that you do the job, we have the opportunity to save some of it. Beyond that, let's see, root crop plowing. Lazy farmers. The Better Contracts mod has this little feature, and you can set it to yes or no, or on or off. And when it's set to yes, all these other options appear. And basically it's saying, okay, if this is on, then the NPC farmers are going to literally be that. They're going to be lazy when it comes to things like their harvesting, their sowing, their plowing, their cultivating, their fertilizing, and their weeding. And we get to decide what we want them to be lazy at. I don't have them lazy at harvesting. Harvesting takes a lot of work. There are a lot of harvesting contracts on this map as it is. If it looks like we're not getting enough, I might turn it on, but for now I'm going to leave it off. Sowing, I'm going to leave it off. I'm really not interested in sowing contracts. Just when you're doing baling contracts and harvesting contracts and things like that, and you're doing in sowing contracts, it's really labor intensive. The reality is there's a lot more money to be made doing things that don't require a lot of time or a lot of overhead, like for instance plowing, cultivating, fertilizing. Plowing and cultivating are really lucrative because whatever the contract pays, you get all of it. You're not out of pocket for any supplies like fertilizer or seeds. Fertilizing contracts are pretty lucrative. Even though you've got to pay for the fertilizer, typically tractors move at a pretty good clip in the field when they're fertilizing. They can do several fields a day fertilizing. So we're going to have our NPC farmers be lazy when it comes to plowing, cultivating, and fertilizing. I've got them set for activated for weeding. I'm going to turn that off. And then higher difficulty, no, there's not going to be a penalty for not getting contracts completed within a specific amount of time because, well, anything that we take, we're going to complete within the month that we take it. And by the way, I have a set to 1 month per day. While we're talking about that, seasonal growth is off because, well, trying to make money contracting, if we turn seasonal growth on and everything, for instance, has to be harvested, has to be cultivated and plowed at any one time, you're going to have one episode or 1 month where you're able to do that, and then you're going to be twiddling your thumbs for the rest of the year. Field purchase discount. So many of the pieces of property on the map are owned by NPC farmers. The more work you do for each one of them, the more they are willing to give you a break in the event that you eventually buy or purchase land from them. Now I've got it set for 5% per contract for up to a maximum of 7 jobs, so up to 35% off. And again, with a 4X map dealing with the price of the land, if you want to purchase property, a 35% discount basically means you can, for every $100,000 you're spending, you're going to spend $65,000. And then the contract generation, I didn't do anything with the interval or the generation percentage. They're going to generate new contracts once every hour, up to a maximum of 20% of the contracts are going to be regenerated. And that's pretty much it. I've got a few other mods that I've got in play for gameplay purposes. Again, I mentioned Courseplay and Autodrive. I'm a big fan of both. Trust me, you don't want to see me doing field work. And I just love the way that Courseplay and Autodrive work so well together. So that said, why don't we take a look at what we can do, because we've got $859. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we need to get started. We need to make some money. Let's see what contracts are out there and what we might be able to do to put some money in the bank. Well, baling. Wow, these are nice. This is another little feature of the Better Contracts mod. When you have it installed, for instance, if I didn't want to see the baling contracts, I just deselect baling and it moves right to cultivating. So for instance, if we don't want to do weeding contracts, I can just shut weeding off. But for now, I've got everything on. And also with Better Contracts, you also get more contracts. As you can see here, there's a number to choose from. So there ought to be something in here for us to do. And additionally, with the Better Contracts mod, you get this button down here called Details. If I turn Details on, the thing about Details is it factors in the amount of product we get to keep for ourselves and or the amount of material or supplies we have to invest to do the job. So in a baling contract that pays $28,000, in this case to turn it into hay, the leftover product that we would get would bring the total value of that contract from the $28,800 that the farmer's going to pay us up to $33,000. With this contract, we go from 23 to 26. You'll notice with cultivating, cultivating's cultivating, because again, there's no product from it, and there is no investment in overhead in it other than our time and our equipment and our diesel fuel. Fertilizer, a $9,000 contract, we're going to make $7,000 on. So this gives us an idea how profitable some of these contracts can be for us. And also, this is the other thing, it gives us a brief estimate of how much time it's going to take. Now, it's calculating that based on the equipment down here that it's showing you. So obviously for us, like right here, right, it says 1 hour and 24 minutes to do this cultivating contract on field 8, but that's with this equipment. If you're using our little disc that I showed you that we've got stashed in the corner out of there, over there, that's going to be more like 6 hours, right? All right, so what's here? Let's start with baling. Now let's see. We have a mower, we have a tedder, we have a rake, and we have a baler. But there's one problem. I've got the NetWrap add-on mod installed. We're required to purchase NetWrap. There's no NetWrap in our baler, and we only have $859. So therefore, I guess we're not doing any baling. Cultivating, again, that'd be great. Definitely could handle 52,000 bucks. The only problem is that's what we've got to cultivate with. I'd say it's not happening either. Fertilizing, well, there's a number of contracts here I would love to get my hands on. These are all great. Problem is, we don't have a fertilizer spreader. nor do we have any fertilizer to put in it. Forage contracts. Again, an additional mod I have installed that allows for forage contracts. Again, we don't have the equipment. This requires a forage harvester. Nothing that we're going to be able to do with those. Harvesting. Well, maybe. We do have a harvester. You know, we've got some equipment that we might be able to use to do this, but looks of things, that's some pretty big equipment, way bigger than the stuff we got. That one there we could probably do, the Oatenfield 55, and we could probably do this one here, the Oatenfield 57. But here's the thing, if we're going to do all this for basically 10 grand, the fact of the matter is we've got a field full of oats of our own sitting right next to our shed out here that we could harvest, and that's all ours. So I think maybe instead of harvesting, we'll just harvest our own crops. Again, sowing, a lot of lucrative contracts on here. We've got a seeder, but again, it's not like this, it's small, and we don't have any seed. So it's looking like our contracting business is going to start out with us harvesting our own crops. Well, so be it. We may as well go ahead and get to it. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to fire up the harvester here, get it out, get it into the field, get ready to go. I really like some of these old mods I was able to find recently. It is older equipment, kind of near and dear to me because it's representative of a lot of the equipment that growing up as a kid I remember watching farmers, our neighbors, using. And this New Holland's pretty similar to that. All right, tell you what, let me get situated here. Let me get our harvester set up, get our grain truck out, get ready to go, and I will be right back with you. Okay, so here we are, harvesting away. Everything seems to be behaving nicely. Again, I'm really impressed with some of these old mods I was able to find, just how well they behave with Courseplay. And this old harvester, I'm really impressed at the speed at which it's harvesting, and as you'll see down here, it actually goes 19 miles an hour on the road, which is pretty darn good. It should get us around the map if we decide we want to use it for harvesting contracts. I kept saying this was a field of oats. It's a field of wheat. In my initial playthrough, when I set this map up, I was doing some testing on how I wanted to set this series up, and this field had oats in it. So forgive me, but I'm probably going to keep talking about our oat field when in reality it's a wheat field. Well, good. And it looks like we're going to unload our combine. Hopefully we'll do a good job and these two won't get tangled up. You know, this is always a crapshoot anytime you're using any auto unload features, which I really love, by the way. Again, I love the synergy, the way that Courseplay and Autodrive work together, and just how easy it is to automate things, especially if you're on a big map like this, or if you've got a lot of fields, you've got a lot of stuff going on. You know, when you're playing by yourself, it's the automation that Courseplay and Autodrive together give you, really allow you to do a lot of complex things. Looks like he's going to hesitate till that thing comes to a complete stop. Let's see what the inside of this truck looks like. Oh wow, pretty nice, pretty impressive. Huh. Pretty plain. The old radio over there, the old AM radio with the push buttons on it. That's the way we've got the window cranks there on either side, the wing windows. It's interesting. My son works for an automobile dealership here locally, and he was showing me, it's a Toyota dealership, and he was showing me the brand new Sequoia vehicle that Toyota has reintroduced, and all of the features and functions that it has, and all of its just electronic intuitiveness. And every time he'd show me a feature, he kept saying the same thing. Gee, I wonder how much that costs to fix. Yeah, right. So you buy a $100,000 automobile these days, and it's a crapshoot as to whether or not it will continue to work the way that it should. Lots to be said for this right here, right? Okay. Yeah, we're going to get in the way. There we go. This guy drives and unloads a combine like I do. I guess I shouldn't feel too badly about my skills. I have a habit of playing kind of zoomed in. I need to be conscious of that. I don't want to burden you and bury you with vehicle sounds. So I don't know about most of you, but I tend to be a fan of smaller content creators. In fact, watching the number of smaller content creators that I do kind of were the inspiration for me wanting to start this channel and do this. I guess I prefer smaller content creators because I feel like when I watch them play, the struggle's real. I mean, I see them, I see the smaller content creators struggling with the same things in gameplay that I do. This mod not working, and this function not quite working right, and how come this doesn't happen, and how come this vehicle won't do what it's supposed to do, and you can't help but laugh. But you know, you're not. I don't find myself laughing because someone is being an imbecile so much as, hey, I feel it, right? I've been there. Okay, yeah, coming around the corner. I forget how many headlands I set this up for. I think maybe 4. Yeah, I had visions of this thing driving off into the creek there, which it still might happen. That's one thing about Courseplay. You really, it's all about the headlands. You know, the right number of headlands will save you from a lot of grief and aggravation. You put in too few, and you're constantly trying to pull your harvester or your mower or your baler out of the trees, out of the creek, out of the traffic, finding it wrapped around telephone poles. I'm noticing here as I'm looking at the record time, and again, I have no idea how much video I'm going to end up with, as this is my first go around, but I see them running quite long, which I guess was to be expected after going through all of the setup, kind of giving everybody a brief tour of the equipment and everything. But I also have a tendency to be long-winded. As one person told me one time, every time I ask you what time it is, you tell me how to build a watch. Brevity is simply not my strong suit. So hopefully most of you will appreciate that, although I can endeavor to do better. Just like our international truck, this is pretty plain, pretty simple, pretty vanilla, and pretty dirty. Oh my word. Okay, well, tell you what, I'm I'm not really a fan of time lapses or montages, but I know some people are. Again, let me know your preference. I guess my preference would be to just simply leave things be and come back and rejoin you once we've completed this task. But if you'd rather see a time lapse or you'd rather see a montage with music involved, please let me know what your preference is. Again, everything's on the table and everything's fair game. All right, well, I will be back with you once we have wrapped this harvest up. Welcome back in, everybody. We're just wrapping up this harvest here, and looks like our grain truck is full. So we're going to have the opportunity to sell our first load of wheat and have some money to finally get the ball rolling. And doesn't it just figure? The truck's full. I don't have a silo, and we're going to end up with about, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 liters left in the harvester. But that's okay. Every little bit helps. All right. Yeah, and he parks in the ditch. Okay, yeah, whatever. All right. I think what we'll do is let's see where we'd sell this stuff. I believe there's essentially, yeah, Cooper Farms grain. All right, that works. That's where we'll go. Actually, let's do this. Send it down there and just sell it. And we'll see what we get. It's just about at $1,000 or per 1,000 liters, so that'll work out for us. We'll get roughly almost $25,000, 24 and change. That's pretty good. That'll allow us to kind of get started. We can buy some net wrap for our baler to maybe pick up a baling contract. We can buy possibly a fertilizer spreader and some fertilizer to pick up some of those fertilizing contracts. So hopefully we'll get enough here to do some or all of that. I'm going to go ahead and get the harvester off the field and out of the way, because the next chore obviously will be to bale all this. Bale it all and again sell the straw. So between the grain and the straw, we should do all right. It'll give us some good seed money to get started. As I said, I can get a fertilizer spreader and some fertilizer, some net wrap for the baler, and maybe we'll have enough money to put some diesel in this diesel tank over here that we have, since it's, well, empty. All right, here we are. We've arrived at Cooper Farm and Grain. Let's sell our wheat and see what we get. Grain door. Gonna have to see if there's an option for the tailgate. Oh, we're doing all right. You can definitely afford that net wrap now. Who knows, after we sell the straw, perhaps I can even afford a pressure washer. We can clean some of this stuff up. Yeah, 23. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, there wasn't a combination of harvesting contracts in there that was going to give us that, so that definitely worked out in our favor. Okay, folks, that'll wrap up our first episode. Not a bad start, again. Didn't quite get as much done as I would have hoped, but I did want to take the opportunity to kind of provide the lay of the land and share with everyone kind of my vision for the series. Thanks so much for joining me. If you liked what you saw, I'd appreciate knowing. Give me a like and a subscribe. If you didn't like what you saw, please send me a message, drop a comment, and let me know why. And I will look forward to seeing you in our next episode.